y'all? Welcome back to the Zayman Live Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Isaiah. Y'all, the New York Knicks have made another blockbuster trade as they have acquired four-time All Star Karl-Anthony Towns from the Minnesota Lynx in exchange for Julius Randle, Dante DiVincenzo, and a first-round pick. And y'all, the New York Knicks are all in. Back in July, they traded for Mikal Bridges, and now they've traded for Karl-Anthony Towns. And y'all, I love this trade because New York Knicks desperately needed help at the center spot. And I thought they were going to trade for Portland Trailblazer center DeAndre Ayton, but instead, y'all, they trade for the greatest shooting big man in NBA history, Karl-Anthony Towns. And y'all, that pick and roll game between him and Jalen Brunson is going to be lethal because you cannot go under, obviously, right? Because both of those guys can shoot. So I cannot wait to see how they're going to carve up defenses, with that two-man game between them. And yes, y'all, I know Karl-Anthony Towns can be inconsistent. I know he's not a great defender. But when you look at the way this New York Knicks team is constructed, they already have a lot of great defenders, right? OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, Deuce McBride, and Josh Hart. So they have a really good collection of defenders, y'all. I don't think Karl-Anthony Towns is going to be a horrible defender for them because, y'all, it seems like Tom Thibodeau, who used to be Karl-Anthony Towns' former coach with the Minnesota Timberwolves, it's kind of funny now he's going to be his current coach, but it seems, y'all, that Tom Thibodeau always finds a way to get the best out of his players on the defensive end. So I think Karl-Anthony Towns will have a decent year defensively. But offensively, y'all, this just makes so much sense for the New York Knicks. I mean, Karl-Anthony Towns is just a skilled player offensively, man. He's a really solid ball handler. I mean, I already told y'all he's the greatest shooter big man in NBA history. He has a really solid post game. Y'all, and then he is a good rebounder, right? For his career, he's averaging 10.8 rebounds per game. So this trade just makes too much sense for the New York Knicks. The New York Knicks, y'all, I mean, they are wanting to win the NBA championship, man. They are wanting to compete with the Boston Celtics, the Dallas Mavericks, and the Philadelphia 76ers, and the Oklahoma City Thunder. And with this trade, y'all, they definitely have the team to do so. So, again, I love this trade for the New York Knicks. Yes, Karl-Anthony Towns does have his deficiencies, y'all, but I think he's an upgrade to Julius Randle because the thing is, Julius Randle needs the ball in his hands to be successful, right? Karl-Anthony Towns does not need the ball in his hands to be successful because he's such an elite three-point shooter. You can literally just put him in a corner and just let him, shoot 5-6 threes a night, y'all, and he'll probably make, 3 or 4 of them. And then, you can draw a few plays from him, like on the post or in the two-man game between him and Jalen Brunson. But again, he does not need the ball in his hands to be successful. Where Julius Randle, because he's an inconsistent shooter, he did need the ball in his hands to be successful. But I think you look at the way this New York Knicks team is constructed, y'all. I mean, there's no reason they should not be competing with the big boys in the NBA. And yes, I know they lost a little bit of depth, right, trading away Dante DiVincenzo. But y'all, the New York Knicks already had a pretty deep team. And honestly, it made sense for them to trade away Dante DiVincenzo because they were really, really deep at the guard spot. I mean, obviously with Jalen Brunson, OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, and Deuce McBride and Landry Shamet, y'all, they already had a lot of guards. They were going to get a good amount of minutes for them. Don't get me wrong, Dante DiVincenzo, he's a really solid player, but I understand getting rid of him. And y'all, listen, I would get rid of Dante DiVincenzo too if I could add a player of Karl-Anthony Towns caliber, y'all. Now let's move on to the Minnesota Timberwolves. And for the Minnesota Timberwolves, I totally understand why they did this trade, y'all, because Karl-Anthony Towns, he is on a huge contract, 4-year, $220 million deal. And the Minnesota Timberwolves, they did not want to be handicapped by being able to make future roster moves, y'all, because had they kept Karl-Anthony Towns on their roster, I mean, that was basically going to be their roster for the next 2 or 3 years. The Minnesota Timberwolves, they have guys that are coming up on contract extensions, right? Like Rudy Gobert and Naz Reid in the near future. So I understand why they did this. Julius Randle, he is a very good basketball player, right? He gives you basically like 24 points and 11 rebounds every single night. He gives the Minnesota Timberwolves, y'all, another shot credit, which is something that they desperately needed last year. And Julius Randle, he's also a very good passer. So I do like this trade for them. The only reason, y'all, I don't love this trade for them is because I think that the floor space between him and Rudy Gobert, man, is really, really bad because obviously Rudy Gobert, he's a non-3-point shooter, and Julius Randle, y'all, he is a very streaky 3-point shooter. So don't be surprised if there are games where Dante DiVincenzo or Naz Reid is in the closing lineup and not Julius Randle because, y'all, again, Julius Randle is an inconsistent 3-point shooter, man. And then key moments, you need, as much shooting on the floor as you can possibly have. And Julius Randle and Rudy Gobert on the floor at the same time and crunch time is probably not the best thing for the Timberwolves to do. So I wouldn't be surprised if their closing lineups are like Mike Conley, Anthony Edwards, Jaden McDaniels, Nas Reed and Rudy Gobert, or it might even be Dante DiVincenzo. Like, they might play small ball so that way they can have as much shooting on the court at one possible time, y'all. But the biggest thing I really love about this trade for Minnesota Timberwolves is they added some depth to their bench, man. Dante DiVincenzo is going to be coming off that bench, and now you have him and Rob Dillingham and Terrence Shannon Jr., y'all. So you're going to have two rookies and Rob Dillingham and Terrence Shannon Jr. coming off that bench alongside Dante DiVincenzo. So I love it for the Minnesota Timberwolves getting more depth, y'all, to their bench. It's something that they kind of lacked last year. And Dante DiVincenzo, I mean, he's a very good two-way player. He made so many big plays for the New York Knicks, particularly in the playoffs, y'all. So I think now you look at the Minnesota Timberwolves, they're more deeper. Yes, did this trade make them a little bit worse offensively? Of course it did, because, again, Julius Randle is not the offensive player. He's not the shooter that Karl-Anthony Towns is. They did add more depth. We know the Timberwolves are still going to be a very strong defensive team. Julius Randle is a pretty poor defender, but, I mean, y'all, we know Chris Finch, that's the identity, man. They're going to play defense. So I don't think it's going to have too much of Julius Randle's going to make too much of a difference for them on that end. But in terms of being having another ball handler, having another shot creator on the team, he's definitely going to help alleviate, some of the pressure that Anthony Edwards had on his load, y'all. So again, I can't wait to see what the Timberwolves do too, though, because they still should be a top contender in the Western Conference, y'all. But this, to me, though, is really about the New York Knicks. And the New York Knicks have established themselves as a top 3 team, y'all, in my opinion, in the NBA. I think the Celtics are the best team. The Thunder are the second best team. I think the New York Knicks, y'all, are the third best team in the NBA. Not just in the Eastern Conference. I think they're the third best team in the NBA. And I think this team has a legitimate shot, y'all, to go to and win the NBA Finals, man. I mean, it's going to be tough, right? Because they're probably going to go through the Sixers and the Celtics, y'all. But with the team they've constructed, New York Knicks, man, could potentially win their first NBA championship since 1973, man. So there y'all have it. There was another episode of the Label Line Sports Podcast. Remember, y'all, laughter is good medicine. So what? Make sure you get your daily dose. Y'all know I'm going to end it, man. I love y'all. God bless. Peace.